The Silver Station Ethereal Dawn hung in the darkness between stars. Sensors pointed toward a small blue world that had puzzled the galaxy for over 300 years. Inside the observation deck, Dr. Cathari adjusted her viewing equipment. For the 1000th time this month, her forearms moved with practiced grace as she fine-tuned the long-range scanners, her large eyes reflecting the soft glow of the instruments. "Still watching the silent planet?" Commander Voss asked as he entered the room. His thick armor clanked with each step, a reminder of his warrior background. Unlike Cathari's slender build, Voss was built like a mountain, all muscle and determination. "Continues to fascinate me," Cathari replied, without looking away from her screens. "Look at these readings. Their population has grown to over 12 billion beings, yet they show no signs of space travel beyond their immediate orbital area." Voss moved closer to examine the data. "Perhaps they are simply not ready. Many species take thousands of years to develop proper space technology." "But that is what confuses me," Cathari said, her voice filled with curiosity. "Their technology in other areas advances rapidly. They have global communication networks, advanced computing systems, and energy production that should support space exploration. Yet they remain bound to their world." The observation station had been monitoring Earth since 2089. When humanity first appeared on the Galactic Council's list of developing civilizations, standard protocol required peaceful observation until a species achieved faster than light travel or responded to first contact attempts. Earth had done neither. "The Council has sent 17 different first contact signals over the past century," Voss reminded her. "Each time, nothing. No response, no acknowledgement, not even curiosity about the source of the transmissions." Cathari nodded slowly. "It is as if they cannot hear us, or perhaps they choose not to listen." Far below on Earth's surface, in a facility that did not officially exist, Director Adams reviewed the daily intelligence reports. The underground complex stretched for miles beneath what maps showed as empty farmland in former Switzerland. Hundreds of technicians worked at stations monitoring every alien transmission, every ship movement, every diplomatic communication in their sector of the galaxy. "Sir, we have confirmation of the 19th monitoring station," reported analysts. Brooks, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. "It appears to be a joint operation between the Corvin Empire and someone we have not identified yet." Adams nodded grimly. At 65, he had spent most of his adult life managing humanity's greatest secret. His gray hair and lined face showed the weight of decisions that affected the entire species. 19 stations, 12 different civilizations, all watching us like animals in a cage. "The deception continues to hold," Brooks continued. "Our surface cities show exactly the level of technology we want them to see. The orbital platforms remain cloaked, and our deep space installations are operating normally." Through the vast windows of the command center, Adams could see the real Earth that the aliens never detected. Massive cities existed entirely underground, connected by transport tubes that moved at incredible speeds. Above them, carefully hidden beneath holographic projections, orbital platforms housed millions of people and served as construction sites for humanity's growing fleet. "Any word from the lunar facilities?" Adams asked. "Construction of the new defensive grid is ahead of schedule," Brooks replied. "The railguns will be operational within 6 months. Admiral Torres reports that our asteroid mining operations continue to appear as natural phenomena to outside observers." Adams allowed himself a small smile. For 3 centuries, humanity had played the role of a primitive species while secretly becoming one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Every alien transmission had been intercepted, decoded, and studied. Every technology mentioned in their communications had been analyzed and often improved upon. Every potential threat had been identified and countered. The strategy had been born from humanity's first detection of alien signals in 2087, rather than announce their presence to unknown civilizations with unknown intentions. Earth's leaders had chosen a different path. They would listen, learn, and prepare. Back on the ethereal dawn, Cathari was documenting her latest observations when an alert chimed through the station's communication system. She looked up to see Commander Voss receiving an encrypted message. On his personal communicator. "What is it?" she asked, noting the change in his expression. "Orders from the Dominion High Command," Voss replied, his voice suddenly tense. "They are growing impatient with the Council's observation protocols." Cathari felt a chill run through her body. The Dominion Empire was known throughout the galaxy for their aggressive expansion policies. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved entire species. What do they want? "They question whether Earth poses any threat at all," Voss explained, reading from his communicator. "The Dominion believes the Council wastes time and resources monitoring a species that may never achieve spaceflight. But the protocols exist." "For good reasons," Cathari protested. "We cannot simply abandon our principles because one empire grows impatient." Voss's expression darkened. "The Dominion has never been known for patience. Emperor Marcus believes in action over observation." As if summoned by their conversation, another message arrived on Voss's communicator. This one was marked with the highest priority codes. As he read it, his face grew pale, despite his natural blue skin tone. "They are going to test Earth's defenses," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" Cathari asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. "A small fleet. 12 ships. They call it a probe mission to determine if Earth has any hidden military capabilities." Voss set down his communicator with shaking hands. "They launch tomorrow." Cathari stared at her screens, showing the peaceful blue world below. Billions of beings lived their lives on that planet, unaware that their existence was about to be tested by forces beyond their understanding. "We must warn the Council." "The Dominion has already informed them," Voss replied. "They claim it is within their rights as a Council member to investigate potential threats to galactic security." On Earth, deep beneath the Swiss countryside, alarms began to sound throughout the Global Defense Initiative headquarters. Director Adams rushed to the main command center where dozens of screens showed the movement of Dominion ships toward the edge of their solar system. "How long until they arrive?" Adams asked. 18 hours at their current speed," Analyst Brooks replied. "All defensive systems are moving to full alert status." Adams took a deep breath. 300 years of careful preparation were about to be tested. Humanity's long silence was about to end, and the galaxy would learn that the quiet species they had ignored possessed teeth sharper than anyone imagined. "Send the activation codes to all stations," Adams ordered. "It is time for Earth to speak." Captain Rex stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator, watching the small blue world grow larger on his viewing screens. Behind him, 11 other Dominion warships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon ports and shield generators. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city, and Rex expected this mission to be nothing more than a simple demonstration of superior force. "Sensors show no defensive installations," reported his weapons officer. "Orbital platforms, no military satellites. The planet appears completely undefended." Rex nodded with satisfaction. His scaled skin reflected the bridge lights as he moved closer to the main display. As expected, the Council wastes resources monitoring primitives who cannot even protect their own world. The Dominion fleet had dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's moon, following standard military protocol for approaching unknown worlds. Rex's orders were simple: demonstrate Dominion power, test for any hidden defenses, and report back to Emperor Marcus. If the humans showed any resistance, he was authorized to destroy enough of their infrastructure to make them understand their place in the galaxy. "Begin standard scanning procedures," Rex commanded. "I want a complete analysis of their military capabilities within 1 hour." On the lunar surface, hidden beneath projectors that made the terrain appear natural and lifeless, massive installations hummed to life. Railgun platforms that had been disguised as crater walls began to rotate toward the approaching fleet. Deep within the lunar rocks, Admiral Torres watched the Dominion ships on her command screens. 12 vessels, standard Dominion design, reported her tactical officer. Heavy cruisers and destroyers, total crew estimated at 36,000. Beings. Torres nodded grimly. She was a small woman with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. Though none of the aliens suspected Earth had ever fought a war. Weapon status? All lunar installations ready. Orbital platforms are decloaking on your command. The asteroid field guns are tracking targets. Torres had spent 40 years preparing for this moment. Every simulation, every training exercise, every technological improvement had been designed for the day when Earth's masquerade would end. Wait for my signal. Let them think they have the advantage. Back on the Dominator, Rex was growing impatient. His sensors showed a typical primitive world with basic satellites and what appeared to be a few small space stations.
Oh, nothing.
Could threaten a single Dominion ship, let alone an entire fleet. Sir, we are detecting some unusual energy readings, his science officer reported. There appear to be power sources on the lunar surface, but they are very faint. Probably mining operations, Rex dismissed. These primitives likely dig in the dirt for minerals. Begin the demonstration. Fire warning shots at their largest orbital installation. The Dominator's main guns powered up, energy building in the massive weapon arrays. On Earth, billions of people continued their daily lives, unaware that their planet was about to be attacked. But in the hidden command centers, thousands of military personnel watched their screens with held breath. Dominion fleet is charging. Weapons, reported the tactical officer on Luna. Target appears to be Research Station Alpha. Admiral Torres knew that Research Station Alpha was actually a heavily armored military platform disguised as a civilian facility. It could withstand the attack easily, but that was not the point. The time for hiding was over. Not all units, Torres said into her communicator, her voice carrying to every hidden installation in the solar system. This is Admiral Torres. Execute. Protocol 7. Repeat. Execute Protocol 7. Throughout the solar system, humanity's true nature began to reveal itself. The lunar surface erupted as camouflaged hatches opened and massive railgun platforms rose from hidden bunkers around Earth's orbit. What had appeared to be small research stations suddenly expanded as holographic projectors shut down, revealing enormous military installations. Captain Rex stared in shock. As his sensors detected the activation of hundreds of weapon systems that had not existed moments before. What is happening? Where did these installations come from? Sir, massive energy spikes throughout the system, his science officer called out, panic creeping into his voice. I'm detecting at least 40 major military platforms and something is emerging from behind the lunar craters. The lunar railguns fired their first salvo before Rex could respond. Massive tungsten projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds, tore through space toward the Dominion fleet. The Hammer of Justice, Rex's heaviest cruiser, took 3 direct hits and exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the lunar landscape. Shields up, return fire. Rex screamed, but his fleet was already in chaos. The humans were not firing randomly. Every shot was precisely calculated, striking at critical systems and weak points that should have been impossible for primitive beings to identify. The destroyer. Iron Fist tried to maneuver away from the lunar guns only to find itself in the crosshairs of weapons platforms that had appeared around Earth's orbital ring. Energy beams and kinetic projectiles hammered its hull until the ship broke apart. Spilling atmosphere and crew into the vacuum of space, Admiral Torres watched the battle from her command center, her face showing no emotion as Dominion ships died under human fire. Focus on disabling rather than destroying when possible. We want survivors to carry word back to their empire. The human weapons were unlike anything the Dominion had encountered. Railguns fired solid projectiles at velocities that made them nearly impossible to intercept. Energy weapons struck with precision that suggested computer targeting systems generations ahead of standard galactic technology. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to know exactly where to hit Dominion. Ships for maximum effect. How do they know our weak points? Rex demanded as his own ship shuddered under impact. These specifications are classified at the highest levels. What Rex did not know was that humanity had been intercepting and analyzing Dominion communications. For over 2 centuries, every ship design, every tactical manual, every technical specification had been studied and cataloged. Earth's weapons had been specifically designed to exploit Dominion vulnerabilities. The battle lasted only 12 minutes. When the firing stopped, only 3 Dominion ships remained functional, including Rex's damaged flagship. The rest were either destroyed or drifting helplessly with their systems disabled. Human vessels. "This is Captain Rex of the Dominion Empire." He broadcast on all frequencies, his voice shaking with rage and disbelief. "You have attacked peaceful exploration vessels. This act of aggression will not go unpunished." The response came from Luna, transmitted on perfect Dominion military frequencies with proper encryption protocols. "Captain Rex. This is Admiral Torres of the Earth Defense Force. Your vessels entered our system with weapons charged and fired upon our installations. We responded proportionally to your threat level." Rex was stunned into silence. Not only had the humans defeated his fleet with ease, but they were communicating in perfect Dominion military language, using codes that should have been impossible for them to possess. "You will withdraw immediately," Torres continued. "Carry this message to your Emperor. Earth is under the protection of humanity, and we do not welcome uninvited guests who arrive with hostile intent." As the surviving Dominion ships limped away toward the edge of the solar system, Rex stared at his tactical displays, showing the true extent of Earth's defenses. Hundreds of installations that had been invisible now appeared on his sensors. The primitive world they had come to intimidate was actually one of the most heavily fortified systems he had ever seen. On Earth, Director Adams stood before the Global Defense Council in the hidden chamber beneath Geneva. Representatives from every nation and orbital colony filled the seats, their faces reflecting the magnitude of what had just occurred. "The masquerade is over," Adams announced. "For 3 centuries, we have successfully convinced the galaxy that humanity poses no threat. That deception died today when we were forced to defend ourselves." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth's greatest protection had been the belief that they were harmless. The galaxy would know. "The truth, what happens now?" asked the representative from the African Union. Adams looked up at the displays, showing alien monitoring stations throughout their region of space. "Now, we prepare for war, because when the Dominion Empire learns what happened here today, they will not send 12 ships next time." The news of Earth's defensive victory spread through the galaxy faster than the Dominion survivors could return home. Within hours of the battle, monitoring stations across 12 star systems were transmitting emergency reports to their respective governments. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive, animals now faced a terrifying reality. They had been wrong for 3 centuries. Dr. Catheri stood in the emergency session chamber of the Galactic Council, her forearms trembling as she presented her analysis to representatives from 47 different civilizations. The chamber, carved from a massive asteroid and decorated with the finest artwork from 1,000 worlds, had never seen such tension. "The energy signatures are unmistakable," she reported, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "The humans possess railgun technology that exceeds our own by at least 3 generations. Their targeting systems demonstrated accuracy levels that our best computers cannot match." Council Leader Thane of the Altari delegation leaned forward. In his floating chair, his people were known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature and advanced sciences. "Dr. Cathari, are you suggesting that this species we have classified as primitive has been intentionally deceiving us?" "The evidence is overwhelming," Cathari replied, activating her holographic displays. "Look at these power readings from their lunar installations. The energy output required for those railguns suggests fusion technology more advanced than anything in our databases." Murmurs of disbelief and fear rippled through the chamber. Representative Corvin, a massive warrior, whose people had conquered 3 star systems, slammed his armored fist on his desk. "Impossible. My scouts have observed their world for decades. They show no signs of advanced military technology." "Because they did not want us to see it," Catheri explained. Analysis of the battle recordings shows that their installations were hidden using holographic projection systems and electromagnetic shielding that made them invisible to our sensors. The implications hit the assembly like a physical blow. If humanity could hide such massive military installations from galactic surveillance technology, what else might they be concealing? On Earth, engineer Lisa Martinez worked frantically in the construction bays hidden within Jupiter's storms. The massive gas giant served as perfect cover for humanity's largest shipbuilding facility, where vessels the size of cities were assembled in complete secrecy. Around her, thousands of workers activated systems that had been waiting decades for this moment. Primary fusion reactors are online, reported her assistant, Tom Bradley, as he monitored the startup sequence of humanity's greatest military secret. Hull integrity is holding steady. Lisa looked up at the massive shape taking form in the construction bay. The Terran's Pride was humanity's first dreadnought, ship 3 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack planets. For 30 years, it had been built in secret, disguised as a research station studying Jupiter's atmospheric conditions. "How long until we can move her out of the construction bay?" Lisa asked. 6 hours for final system checks, Tom replied. Admiral Torres wants her positioned near Mars before the Dominion decides to return. Throughout the solar system, similar scenes were playing out as humanity's true military might emerged from hiding. Asteroid mining operations revealed themselves as fortress stations bristling with weapons. Scientific research platforms transformed into fleet command centers. Even Earth's weather satellites shed their disguises to become orbital defense platforms. But the revelation was not limited to military hardware. In the deepest vaults beneath the Global Defense Initiative headquarters, Director Adams accessed files that contained humanity's greatest secret: 3 centuries of intercepted alien communications, decoded technologies, and detailed intelligence. On every major civilization in their sector of the galaxy, "Sir, the Altari have requested formal diplomatic contact," reported analyst Brooks as he reviewed incoming transmissions. "They are offering alliance and mutual defense agreements." Adams nodded while studying intelligence reports on his screens. "The Altari are peaceful, but not naive. They understand that if the Dominion destroys us, they will be next on the list. We also have inquiries from the Council of Merchants and the Democratic Alliance," Brooks continued. "It seems our little demonstration has convinced several species that friendship with humanity might be preferable to hostility." The diplomatic messages were pouring in from across the galaxy, but Adams knew that not all the responses would be positive. The Corvin Empire had built their reputation on military conquest. An Earth's display of superior firepower would be seen as a direct challenge to their dominance. In the throne room of the Dominion capital world, Emperor Marcus paced before his war council like a caged predator. His crimson robes swept behind him as he moved, and his golden crown reflected the light from massive displays showing the humiliating defeat of his fleet at Earth. 12 ships, he growled, his voice echoing off the marble walls. 12 of our finest warships defeated by primitives who should not even possess spaceflight. General Kane, commander of the Dominion military, stood at attention despite the tremor in his voice. "My lord, our initial intelligence was clearly flawed. The humans possessed technology we did not anticipate." "Flawed intelligence?" Marcus turned on his general with fury blazing in his eyes. "Or did our enemies somehow acquire weapons that should not exist?" The Emperor's paranoia was not entirely misplaced. The Dominion had enemies throughout the galaxy, species they had conquered or threatened over the centuries. The possibility that one of them had secretly armed humanity was terrifying to consider. "My lord," offered Admiral Davis, the Empire's chief of naval operations, "perhaps we should consider diplomatic contact before taking further military action." Marcus stopped pacing and stared at his admiral with contempt. "Diplomacy? With beings who destroyed our ships without warning? With primitives who dare to challenge the might of the Dominion Empire?" The Emperor moved to the central display, showing Earth's location in relation to Dominion space. "No, Admiral, there will be no diplomacy. There will be total war." He turned to address his entire war council, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Mobilize the Grand Fleet. Every available ship, every weapon system, every soldier in the Empire. We will show this species and every other potential rebel what happens when you oppose the Dominion." Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the debate had grown heated as species chose sides in the emerging conflict. The peaceful Altari and several other democratic civilizations were calling for Earth to be granted immediate council membership and protection, The Corvan Empire and their allies demanded that humanity be investigated for potential violations of galactic law. Dr. Cathari found herself at the center of the controversy as the galaxy's leading expert on human capabilities. Council members, she addressed the assembly. We must consider the possibility that humanity's deception was defensive rather than aggressive. Defensive? Representative Corvan's voice boomed through the chamber. Right. They possessed weapons capable of destroying entire fleets while pretending to be harmless. Is that defensive? Because they never used those weapons until attacked? Cathari replied firmly. For 3 centuries, humanity remained silent despite our surveillance and first contact attempts. They revealed their true capabilities only when threatened with destruction. Council Leader Thane raised his hand for silence. Dr. Cathari raises an important point. Perhaps we have misjudged this species entirely. The chamber fell quiet as the implications sank in. If humanity had possessed advanced military technology for centuries, but chose not to use it for conquest, they might represent something new in galactic politics, a species with the power to wage war, but the wisdom to choose peace. I propose we send a formal diplomatic mission to Earth, Thane continued. It is time we learn the truth about humanity directly from humans themselves. The vote was close, but the motion passed. For the first time in galactic history, the Council would attempt formal first contact with a species that had already demonstrated they could destroy any expedition sent against them on Earth. Admiral Torres stood in the observation deck of the Terran's Pride as the massive dreadnought moved into position near Mars. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the red planet's surface, now bristling with weapon platforms and defensive installations that had emerged from hiding. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council, reported Communications Officer Park. They are requesting permission to send a diplomatic mission to Earth. Torres smiled for the first time in days. After 3 centuries of watching us from a distance, they finally want to talk. She moved to her command chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is Admiral Torres. Today marks the end of humanity's long silence. The galaxy now knows we exist, and some of them want to be our friends, while others want to be our enemies. Throughout the ship, thousands of crew members listened to their admiral's words, understanding that they were witnessing a turning point in human history. But remember this, Torres continued, we chose silence not because we were weak, but because we were wise. We listened, we learned, and we prepared. Now the galaxy will learn what it means to underestimate humanity. The stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. And Earth stood ready to fight for its right to exist as a free species in a galaxy that had never truly understood what they were capable of achieving. The Dominion Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a plague of metal locusts. 237 warships arranged themselves in attack formation, their hulls dark against the starfield. Emperor Marcus had kept his promise to bring overwhelming force. Now the largest military fleet in galactic history, prepared to destroy what they still believed was a single primitive world. Admiral Rex, promoted after his survival of the first encounter, stood on the bridge of the new flagship Imperial Wrath. His scaled hide bore fresh scars from his last meeting with human weapons, and his eyes burned with the need for revenge. Beside the Dominion fleet, 68 ships of the Corvan Empire maintained their own formation, their angular vessels bristling with the weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds. All ships report ready for combat, announced Fleet Marshal Storm, commander of the Joint Dominion Corvan forces. His reputation for brutal efficiency had made him the Emperor's first choice to lead this campaign. Begin the systematic destruction of human defensive installations. What Storm and his allies did not know was that Earth's defenders had spent the past month preparing for exactly this scenario. Hidden throughout the solar system, human forces waited in positions that had been planned for decades. This was not going to be the easy conquest the aliens expected. Commander Brooks floated weightless in the command center of Asteroid Base Delta, one of dozens of fortified positions scattered throughout the belt between Mars and Jupiter. Around him, tactical displays showed the approaching enemy fleet, while automated systems armed weapons that had been hidden. Inside ordinary-looking space rocks for generations. All stations report ready, Brooks announced over the secure communication network that linked every human installation in the system. Operation Hammerfall is authorized. Let them come. The human strategy was simple in concept, but devastating in execution. Rather than meet the alien fleet in open battle, Earth's forces would use the entire solar system as their battlefield. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid had been prepared as either a weapon platform or a fortress. Admiral Torres commanded the defense from her position aboard the Terran's Pride, now revealed in all its massive glory near Jupiter's orbit. The 3-kilometer dreadnought was accompanied by T-7, other major warships that had emerged from hiding places throughout the outer system. These were not converted civilian vessels or hastily armed transports. These were purpose-built engines of war, designed specifically to fight the kind of battle that was about to begin. Enemy fleet is dividing into attack groups, reported Captain Anderson from the tactical station. They appear to be targeting our known installations first. Torres nodded grimly. The aliens were following standard galactic military doctrine, seeking to destroy fixed defenses before moving in to bombard the planet itself. It was exactly what humanity had expected them to do. Signal all units, Torres commanded. Execute Phase 1. Throughout the solar system, the first wave of human counterstrike began. What the aliens had identified as minor defensive installations suddenly revealed themselves as heavily armed fortress worlds. Mars erupted with missile launches as underground silos opened across the red planet's surface. Luna's hidden railgun batteries opened fire across impossible distances. Their tungsten projectiles accelerated to nearly light speed. Fleet Marshal Storm watched in growing alarm as his tactical displays lit up with new contacts. Where are these weapons platforms coming from? Our intelligence showed only minimal defenses. Sir, massive energy spikes throughout the system, reported his sensor operator, panic clear in her voice. I count at least 300 major installations that were not there yesterday. The first alien ships to die were the scout vessels that had moved ahead of the main fleet. The destroyer Corvin Blade took a direct hit from a railgun slug that punched completely through its armored hull and out the other side. The heavy cruiser Dominion Glory found itself surrounded by what it had thought were empty asteroids, only to discover they were actually weapon platforms that opened fire from point-blank range. But the humans were not finished with their surprises. As the alien fleet tried to regroup and identify new threats, the asteroid belt itself came alive. Rocks that had drifted in space for millions of years suddenly activated hidden engines and began moving toward the invaders. Each asteroid was actually a massive kinetic weapon, designed to ram enemy ships at velocities that would release the energy of nuclear weapons. Admiral Rex, once again finding himself in the middle of a human ambush, screamed orders to his fleet, even as his own ship shuddered under railgun impacts. All ships, evasive maneuvers, focus fire on the largest human vessels. The Dominion and Corvin fleets tried to adapt to human tactics, but they were fighting an enemy that had studied their every move for centuries. Human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible, their formations shifting and flowing like schools of fish, every time alien gunners targeted what appeared to be a weakness. They found themselves firing at empty space, while real attacks came from unexpected directions. Commander, Brooks watched from his asteroid command post as the battle raged around him. Human ships darted between the larger alien vessels like fighters attacking bombers, their weapons striking at critical systems with surgical precision. The humans were not trying to destroy every enemy ship. They were systematically disabling the alien fleet's ability to fight as a coordinated unit. Direct hit on the Corvin command ship, reported his tactical officer. Their formation is beginning to break apart. The turning point came when the Imperial Wrath took a concentrated barrage from 3 human cruisers. The massive Dominion flagship lost its main engines and began drifting helplessly through space. Without their command ship, the alien fleet started to fragment as individual captains made their own tactical decisions. That was when Admiral Torres played her final card. All units, execute Phase 2. Release the hounds. From hidden positions? Throughout the outer system, humanity's true space force revealed itself. Not just the dozen ships that had been visible during the battle, but over 300 vessels of various sizes. cruisers, destroyers, frigates, and support ships that had been constructed in secret over the past century. The human fleet outnumbered the alien invaders, and every ship was crewed by people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Fleet Marshal Storm stared at his tactical displays in complete disbelief. This is impossible. No single world could support such a large military force. What Storm did not understand was that Earth was not a single world anymore. The planet supported 12 billion people, but another 8 billion humans lived in orbital habitats, lunar cities, and colonies throughout the solar system. Humanity had become a true spacefaring civilization while maintaining the illusion that they were still bound to their birth world. The second phase of the battle was even more devastating than the first. Human ships attacked in coordinated waves, their movements showing the kind of tactical discipline that took generations to develop. Alien vessels that had survived the initial ambush found themselves overwhelmed by enemies that seemed to appear from nowhere. But the battle was not entirely one-sided. The Dominion and Corvon forces were still formidable opponents, and they began to inflict serious damage on human ships as they adapted to the new reality. The human cruiser New Horizon exploded under concentrated fire from a Corvon battle group. The destroyer Freedom's Edge lost its forward sections to a Dominion plasma cannon. Admiral Torres felt each loss like a physical blow. But she knew that this battle was about more than military victory. It was about earning the respect of the galaxy and proving that humanity deserved its place among the stars. "Admiral, we are receiving a priority transmission," announced Communications Officer Park. "It's from the Galactic Council fleet." Torres looked up from her tactical displays in surprise. Council fleet? What council fleet? The answer came in the form of 63 ships dropping out of hyperspace near Neptune's orbit. At their head flew the banner of the Altari Republic, but Torres could identify vessels from at least 12 different species. The Galactic Council had sent a joint task force to intervene in the battle. "Council," Leader Thane's voice came over the communication channels, broadcasting to all vessels in the system. "This is the Galactic Council peacekeeping force. All hostilities will cease immediately, or we will be forced to take action to protect civilian populations." Fleet Marshal Storm was faced with an impossible choice. He could continue the attack and risk war with the entire Galactic Council, or he could withdraw and face the wrath of Emperor Marcus. The decision was made for him when 3 more council ships emerged from hyperspace, these ones bearing the markings of species that the Dominion had considered allies. All Dominion and Corvin vessels, Storm broadcast to his fleet, begin withdrawal to Rally Point 7. We are not equipped to fight the entire galaxy. As the alien fleet began its retreat, Admiral Torres allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had faced the greatest military challenge in their history and emerged victorious. But more importantly, they had gained the respect and alliance of species that could help them build a new future among the stars. "Admiral," reported Captain Anderson, "final casualty reports are coming in. We lost 18 ships and approximately 12,000 personnel." Torres nodded solemnly. Victory had come at a price. But it was a price that had bought humanity something invaluable: the right to determine their own destiny in a galaxy full of potential friends and enemies. The great battle was over, but Torres knew that the real work was just beginning. Earth had announced its presence to the galaxy in a way that no one could ignore. And now they would have to learn how to live with the consequences of their revelation. 6 months after the Great Battle, Ambassador Ryan Williams stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council in their ancient chamber. The massive space station that housed the Council had been expanded to accommodate humanity's delegation, and the sight of humans walking freely among dozens of alien species would have been impossible to imagine just a year earlier. Ryan was a career diplomat who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Though he had never expected it to come through military victory rather than peaceful first contact, his dark suit was simple compared to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by other species. But his calm confidence commanded attention from every being in the chamber. "Honored representatives," Ryan began, his words translated instantly into 47 different languages, "I stand before you today not as a conqueror, but as a neighbor who seeks friendship and cooperation among the stars. The chamber was silent as delegates from across the galaxy listened to humanity's first formal address to the Council. Many of them were still adjusting to the reality that the species they had dismissed as primitive was now one of the most powerful. Military forces and known Space Council leader Thane of the Alteri Republic leaned forward in his floating chair. Ambassador Williams, the Council has many questions about humanity's long deception. Why did your people choose to remain hidden when we attempted peaceful contact? Ryan had expected this question and had prepared carefully for his answer. We chose silence because we were wise enough to listen before we spoke. For over 3 centuries, we monitored galactic communications and learned about the civilizations that shared our region of space. He activated a holographic display that showed the political map of their galactic sector. We observed the rise and fall of the Corvin Empire through conquest. We witnessed the Dominion's expansion through forced annexation of weaker species. We saw peaceful civilizations like the Altari struggle to maintain their independence in a galaxy where military might often determine survival. Dr. Cathari, now serving as the Council's chief analyst on human affairs, nodded thoughtfully. So you were gathering intelligence for aggressive purposes? No, Ryan replied firmly. We were learning how to avoid becoming victims, every species that achieved spaceflight was eventually contacted by more advanced civilizations. Some were welcomed as equals, others were conquered or absorbed. We studied these patterns and realized that revealing our capabilities too early could make us targets for those who saw new species as threats to eliminate. Representative Corvin, his massive frame imposing, even in the diplomatic setting, spoke with barely controlled anger. You developed weapons specifically designed to counter our technologies. How is that not preparation for war? Ryan met the warrior's gaze without flinching. We developed defenses specifically designed to protect our independence. There is a significant difference between preparing to attack and preparing to defend. The distinction was crucial, and many council members recognized it. The evidence was clear that humanity had possessed superior military technology for decades, yet they had never used it for expansion or conquest. They had remained within their own solar system, building defenses rather than invasion fleets. The question before us, said Council Leader Thane, is whether humanity can be trusted as a member of this body? Your people have demonstrated military capabilities that exceed those of most member species, yet you claim to desire only peaceful coexistence. Ryan nodded respectfully. We understand the Council's concerns. Address them. I am authorized to make the following proposals. He activated new displays, showing detailed technical information. First, humanity offers to share our defensive technologies with any species that faces aggressive expansion from hostile neighbors. Our railgun and energy shield technologies could help smaller civilizations protect themselves without requiring offensive capabilities. Murmurs of interest rippled through the chamber. Many species had struggled for centuries to develop effective defenses against larger, more aggressive neighbors. Second, Ryan continued, we propose the establishment of joint research facilities, where human and alien scientists can work together on projects that benefit all civilizations. We have learned much from studying your transmissions, and we believe cooperation will benefit everyone involved. Dr. Cathari was practically vibrating with excitement at the prospect of direct collaboration with human scientists. What about your military capabilities? Will humanity agree to limitations on fleet expansion? We will agree to the same limitations that apply to all council members, Ryan replied. But we will not agree to restrictions that apply only to humanity. We seek equality, not special treatment. The debate continued for hours, as representatives questioned every aspect of humanity's proposal. Some species were eager to form alliances with Earth, recognizing the benefits of friendship with such a technologically advanced civilization. Others remained suspicious, worried that humanity's military might could upset the careful balance of power that had maintained relative peace for centuries. Finally, Council Leader Thane called for a recess. We will vote on humanity's membership application tomorrow. All delegates are encouraged to consult with their governments before casting their ballots. That evening, Ryan stood in his quarters aboard the human embassy ship, New Geneva. Looking out at the stars through reinforced windows, Director Adams appeared on his communication screen, transmitting from Earth. "How do you think the vote will go?" Adams asked. Ryan considered the question carefully. "It will be close. The Altari Democratic Alliance and Council of Merchants will support us. The Corvin Empire and their allies will oppose us. The deciding votes will come from the neutral species who are still trying to understand what humanity represents." "Any regrets about how we handled the situation?" Adams asked. Ryan shook his head. "No, the deception was necessary for our survival. If we had revealed ourselves when we first achieved spaceflight, we would have become targets for conquest. Long before we could defend ourselves, the silence gave us time to become strong enough to maintain our independence. Back on Earth, the world had changed dramatically since the end of the Great Battle. The massive underground cities were expanding as orbital habitats in space. Elevators now connected the surface to orbital platforms that no longer needed to hide their true nature. Children who had grown up thinking humanity was confined to a single world now watched ships departing for distant stars through transparent aluminum windows. In a classroom in New Geneva, teacher Maria Santos showed her students holographic displays of the different species that made up the Galactic Council. "Remember," she told the young faces, looking up at her. "For 300 years our ancestors kept the secret that allowed us to build the civilization you see today. They chose patience over pride, wisdom over glory." 8-year-old Tommy. Chen raised his hand. "Teacher Santos, why didn't our ancestors just tell the aliens they were friendly?" Maria smiled at the innocent question. "Because, Tommy, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is appear harmless to those who might wish you harm. Our ancestors understood that the galaxy can be a dangerous place for species that cannot protect themselves." The voting session. The next day was tense as representatives cast their ballots one by one. The chamber fell silent as Council Leader Thane announced the results. By a vote of 31 in favor, 18 opposed, and 6 abstentions, the Galactic Council hereby welcomes humanity as a full member with all rights and responsibilities therein. The chamber erupted in a mixture of applause and concerned murmurs. Humanity had achieved what no species in galactic history had accomplished. They had joined the Council as an equal partner rather than a junior member seeking protection. Ambassador. Ryan stood to address the assembly one final time. "The people of Earth thank the Council for this opportunity. We pledge to use our capabilities in service of peace and mutual prosperity. The galaxy will find that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons, but our commitment to protecting the freedom of all sentient beings." 6 months later, the former monitoring station Ethereal Dawn had been converted into humanity's primary embassy and research facility. Dr. Catheri, now serving as the official liaison between the Council and Earth, worked alongside human scientists in laboratories that would have been impossible to imagine a year earlier. "The quantum resonance patterns in your shield technology are fascinating," she told engineer Lisa Martinez as they reviewed technical displays. "Our best theorists could not have predicted this approach to energy deflection." Lisa smiled as she adjusted the experimental equipment. "That's because we approached the problem from a different direction. While you were trying to strengthen shields against known weapons, we were designing them to counter weapons that did not yet exist. The partnership was proving beneficial for both species. Human technology was advancing galactic defensive capabilities by decades, while alien science was helping humanity understand principles of physics they had never encountered. Admiral Torres, now serving as Earth's military liaison to the Council, stood in the observation deck of the station, looking out at a sight that still amazed her. Human and alien ships moved together through space, their crews working side by side on joint missions throughout the galaxy. "Admiral, incoming message from the Council fleet near Rigel," reported Communications Officer Park. "They report successful completion of the humanitarian mission to evacuate civilians from the Corvin conflict zone." Torres nodded with satisfaction. 3 human ships had joined the Council fleet in rescuing refugees from a civil war, proving that Earth's military capabilities could be used for purposes other than destruction. The transformation had not been without challenges. the Dominion Empire remained hostile, though they had not attempted another direct attack on Earth. Several other aggressive species viewed humanity's rapid rise as a threat to their own expansion plans. But for the first time in galactic history, peaceful species had access to defensive technologies that could protect them from conquest. Emperor Marcus, his empire weakened by the failed attack on Earth and subsequent defections by former allies, brooded in his palace while planning revenge. But even he had to acknowledge that the galaxy had changed. The old order, where military might alone determined survival, was giving way to something new. On Earth, Director Adams stood in the restored surface city of Geneva, watching through transparent walls as ships departed for distant stars. The secret facilities were being converted to research centers and manufacturing plants. While the planet's surface was being restored to its natural beauty, final reports from all sectors reported Analyst Brooks, now serving as Deputy Director of Interstellar Affairs. Human colonies are being established in 17 star systems, all with council approval and local species cooperation. Adams nodded, thinking about the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. Our ancestors chose silence because they understood that sometimes the greatest victories come not from showing strength, but from knowing when and how to use it. Children on Earth now grew up looking at stars that were no longer mysterious, points of light but destinations where humans worked alongside beings from dozens of different worlds.
Now the galaxy that had once seemed hostile and dangerous was becoming humanity's new home. The long silence was over and Earth's voice was now
heard throughout the stars. But more importantly, that voice spoke not of conquest or domination, but of cooperation and mutual respect. Humanity had earned its place among the galactic community, not through fear, but through the wisdom to choose peace over war when given the choice. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities that no one could have imagined when Earth first chose to stay silent and listen to the voices calling from the stars.